Simon Moores from Industrial Minerals.
And what does Industrial Minerals cover?
We cover business intelligence on non-metallic minerals.
You're in here for Roundup. We have a lot of the shows going on in Vancouver right now as well too. Can you tell us about the Industrial Minerals market? What are people telling you right now?
People are telling us this year is going to be better than last, and the Industrial Minerals market, they're expecting a positive upturn in 2013 just because 2012 was so bad, and that's on the investment side to the actual industry side.
Can you break that down per mineral right now as well too? What was happening with graphite and what were happening with some of the industrial minerals you cover?
Yeah, so for example with graphite's used in a mix of traditional and new technologies. So last year for actual demand was actually very poor. Just because it's driven by the steel industry, it's used in refactories, and that dried up, in effect. Demand dried up, people stopped buying, there was less liquidity in the market, so people couldn't invest in new stocks, or they didn't want to. But this year there's that pent-up demand, so for graphite, for example, and it's true for other minerals we cover like Fluorspar, titanium minerals, there is some pent-up demand, so this year is expected to be more positive than last.
What is the difference between I would say like the miners, the traditional mining metals like a copper and a nickel and things like that, as opposed to industrial minerals? How is the supply and how is the production different?
It's far more, well, it's a lot smaller, certainly than the big metals industries. It's owned by a lot of private companies. Mines are global, so take graphite for example. China produces 70% of the volume, but there's mines everywhere. General companies are private, smaller, yet global, and the way their price is very different. So they're priced by individual private contracts. They're not listed on an exchange. Actually, none of the minerals we cover are publicly listed prices. The only prices actually the industry gets are from us, and that means getting into the industry is much harder and much more difficult because it's all about the personal relationships and individual one-to-one contracts.
There's been a lot of interest within industrial minerals, and I think that was one of the reasons that you're here right in Vancouver right now as well too. You were saying that there's some juniors right now that are investing in getting in this space. If you are starting in industrial minerals, what are some of the pitfalls? What are the things that you have to be aware of? How is it different than being a traditional miner or a traditional junior miner?
I would say the key difference is it's value added. So the traditional metals, the iron ore, copper, the big industrial metals, if you like, it's a lot simpler, the process. The mining is simple, the end use is quite basic. For industrial minerals, there's a lot of value added. So it's not just digging it out of the ground and selling it, it's actually the value is in the processing, and that can be quite technical. So companies trying to get involved need to understand the processing side of it and producing a product that customers will buy, as opposed to the actual mining side, which isn't where the expertise lies.
Do you see a particular outlook for what's happening with industrial minerals, like the breakdown of it as graphite as well as Fluorspar as well too, looking forward? Is something looking particularly strong into 2013?
Yeah, I think so. I think mainly because as I said, they're quite niche industries, so it's not very regular that new supply comes on stream to destabilize one industry and therefore destabilize the price. The outlook, because supply and demand is always quite tight with these minerals, it doesn't take much to knock it one way or the other. So I would say the outlook for that reason is for this year and going forward is positive. I would say that the minerals are generally tied to industrial growth, but actually more and more of these minerals are finding key uses in new technologies as well. So really you're adding a new layer of demand for many of the minerals we cover, like stuff like lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles is a potential big growth driver for many of the minerals we cover, and things like solar energy. Actually, oil field minerals is another growth area for us as well. Minerals are used in the extraction of oil and gas.
We heard a lot about graphite, and particularly yours, it's been covered a lot in the press. Is there any type of industrial mineral going forward that we might not know about yet right now, but we'll be hearing about more in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there will be. The thing about the minerals, they need a story to go with it. So It's got to be used. The traditional uses and your basic supply-demand balance isn't generally enough to attract investors. You need that green, usually green element to it. Certainly, graphite's still got legs in it, I believe. Graphite, its use in refactories, steel making, but also in batteries. That's still got legs because the fundamentals are still there. Fluorspar is another mineral which has got similar fundamentals to graphite. So that's one to look out for. And I also think titanium minerals, ilmenite and rutile, are very interesting just because of the size of the industry where it's used. It's actually used to make white paint, which isn't necessarily attractive for investors, but it's a big industry and it's valuable. So that'll be one to look out for also.
Simon, when are you next going to be in Vancouver, and what will you be doing then?
Good question. I'll probably be in Vancouver later in the year, maybe April or May time. Generally, we come here actually to meet people. There doesn't necessarily need to be a reason, just because the interest in Vancouver in what we're doing is growing so rapidly. Investors or companies here are so in tune with what we do and you know, how niche these minerals are. If we go elsewhere around the world, which we do, we travel, we go to Hong Kong or Europe, people, even in London where we're based, people don't necessarily get what we do or understand our industry, but in Vancouver they pick it up very quickly. They're quite shrewd investors, and usually it starts here. So
thank you very much for your time.
All right.